Video cards are only in stock when you're asleep. Welcome back to Codename Catfish. I'm Catfish, but I am neither cat nor fish. I'm a robot. So as I'm sure everyone is aware by now, not many people can get the new toys, the Xbox Series consoles, the PS5s, or the new video cards. They're all still out of stock. Why is it so hard to give $700 to a corporation? Even if you manage to get them, chances are, unless you're playing Cyberpunk or something, you're probably not even playing a next generation game at all. You know, because delays. At least you can buy a Nintendo Switch. They actually recovered from their stock issues. Since it's still difficult to obtain next generation hardware, why not talk about what we can still do with last generation hardware, specifically a PC? We will need a last generation computer of sorts for reference. Why don't we use this Alienware X51 R2 I have? Hey, are you laughing at my Alienware? That's not very nice. So I equipped the computer with these specs. The most notable specs here are a 4-core processor, the i7-4790K, 16GB of RAM, a SATA solid-state drive, and the GTX 1060, 6GB. Check it out, it's the Founders Edition. As you can see, it has no backplate. How rude! I treasure it since it's my first video card I purchased not from a pre-built. Well, I believe these are the best specs the motherboard and the chassis will allow. But it's like totally the last generation gaming computer we need. By the way, these aren't the original specs of the computer. After all, I don't want my Alienware to be a Failienware. I won't be overclocking the CPU or GPU in this video. There isn't much cooling in this machine. It'll be hot! Oh, and we'll be running Windows 10 at 1080p, because I don't have a better monitor. So the cool thing about the GTX 1060 was that you boot up a game on your computer, and you play it. From its release all the way up till the end of 2020. You can run many of your games at high settings reliably at a stable FPS, especially at 1080p. Personally, I never understood the appeal of dynamic or infinite FPS besides benchmarking purposes, I guess. It makes you feel like you're playing on a console. Ew!
What?
That and if your game already runs smooth enough on a capped FPS, I don't believe you need to have your GPU run hotter than it has to. Well, unless you're cold, I suppose. On this computer, games like Monster Hunter World won't run at 60 FPS, especially with its high settings. It seems to jump between the 30s and 40s though. But yeah, you see what I mean? It feels like I'm playing on a console, but slightly better. Check it out! You can even play Cyberpunk with it. Just don't play at its high settings. It'll be rough. But wait, there's more that this Alienware can play than just PC games. For realsies, it can play Persona 5 with our PCS3, a PS3 emulator. Because Atlas hasn't released Persona 5 Royal on Steam yet. Well, what's the hold up? I'm waiting. Look, it's Zero from Drakengard 3. Isn't she adorable? You can even play a current-gen console on it with Yuzu, a Switch emulator. See? I can even play this crappy Pokemon game. I mean, I love the Pokemon themselves, but the games are just cheap compared to the older ones. These emulators aren't perfect yet, but they sure are a lot better than they were a few years ago. But they should be even better over time with updates. My point is, These emulators add whole new game libraries and old game libraries to a computer like this. Just buy the game, even if you don't have that console, extract it, and suddenly there are more games on your computer to hold you over. Isn't that amazing? Just make sure the games are playable on those emulators before you get those games. So there's supposed to be a handful of indie games releasing this year. I really like 20XX and how fluid it was in gameplay, so I can't wait for 30XX. It's early access, but I'm trusting the developers because I liked their last game. Many future indie games like 30XX shouldn't have a problem running on this computer. After all, many recent indie games that became popular are not usually graphically complex. There's also this other indie game that caught my attention. It's called Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, but the recommended spec list shows a better video card and CPU than my Alienware's. I guess this is supposed to be a next-generation indie game. With its minimum requirements, my Alienware should be able to play this game just fine. But will we be able to make this game look as good as in the trailers on this machine? Well, I sure hope it's better optimized than Cyberpunk was on release. We'll just have to wait and see. So, can this Alienware X51 R2 hold up in 2021? Well, I think it should be able to, technically, but we're now stepping into a new generation of gaming. Or at least we're trying to. It's probably not going to play these next-gen graphic games at their full splendor, and that's basing on how well it performed with Cyberpunk, which could arguably get better with optimization patches in the future. As long as the performance is tolerable, and the games don't look too terrible on it, I think it'll do okay for the year. I sure hope it does. Besides, with all the issues with the gaming market at the moment, this is the perfect time to play some older games that I have missed. This Alienware X51 R2 should have no problem with that. I sure hope you enjoyed my video today. I know it's not the most detailed video in the world, but I wanted to do something with my Alienware one last time. I actually have a better rig. I built it last year. It's got an i7-10700K, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a 2060 Super, which was supposed to be a 3080. But I snagged this GPU instead while I still had the chance, because otherwise I would have never gotten a GPU at the time. Well, anyway, it's time for me to go play all those games that have been collecting dust in my Steam library. If you liked what you see, or perhaps you found this video helpful in some way, consider liking the video, subscribing, hitting the bell, and sharing. If you share the video, I could get more screen time. Well, see you next time.